I wanted to get your thoughts on what they're talking about with the Titans, though, man, in terms of potential new punishment. So you remember last week, the Titans weren't supposed to be in the facility up until Saturday, even though at the time, remember, people were still saying, well, man, they should still play the game on Sunday, no excuses, or play the game Monday, etc. So apparently the Titans on Wednesday, once they got the news they couldn't go into the facility, they got together and did their own workouts at a separate high school field, essentially. And now they're talking about either potentially handing down punishments in terms of fines for certain players that were there. Ryan Tannehill was one of the guys there. They talked about potentially removing draft picks also. Yeah. They said that going forward, forfeits could be involved, but for them, because it was already happening before they did the new policies, that's not going to be something. But they could potentially face a forfeit versus the Buffalo Bills this Sunday, because right now they're still having positive tests. They haven't had 2 days in a row of no positive test yet. So I was trying to get your thoughts on that, man.
Man. I don't know. It's just a weird situation, dude. Yeah. I mean, what happened? Because there is that stuff that's out there, and you mentioned it, that they got together last week and they weren't supposed to. They were holding
workouts, but they weren't. They said that the NFL told them directly to all quarantine separately. But at the time when they told them that, they hadn't moved the game at the time, so they still were under the assumption. Remember, that's when Mike Vrabel came out and was like, "We'll be ready to go, or whatever, or we don't care." Like, because the game was still scheduled for Sunday. Then remember, we were talking about it potentially being Monday or Tuesday, but they still weren't technically allowed to come into the facility to practice. So they said, well, we're going to go prepare on our own over here. So then that way we ain't looking crazy come game day.
Players did that kind of on their
right.
own.
Well, they're still trying to figure out everybody who was there, but for certain players were there, and for certain, Ryan Tannehill was there. Yeah.
I don't have that big of an opinion on it. I guess because it has something to do with the Steelers, and I guess as the NFL as a whole, because it starts affecting the scheduling and stuff. Then yeah, I guess maybe I should have an opinion. I don't know, man. Yeah. It's just the whole thing just feels like wonky to me. NFL's just got to do what they got to do. Like I said last time, with the whole things come up and this Titan situation hasn't been completely solved. So like, all right, now they're taking the next step to try to make sure this stuff doesn't happen. I really don't. I'd probably be more interested to hear what you got to say. I don't have like that big of an opinion on it. I'm sure a lot of people are saying, oh man, the Titans screwed the Steelers. They should forfeit that game. We should get the win and all that stuff. But I think I still feel the same way I did whenever we were talking about Steelers Titans. It's like, man, shit happens. And I don't know. I think it's just we're thinking because we're the Steelers that we should be getting the win and everything. Yeah. But at the same time, I don't know. I can see both sides. I can see all of it. So,
yeah. Well, for me, man, it's a couple of things that stand out. Number one, I don't fault the Titans for holding private workouts. At the time when the whole thing came out, they were shut down until Saturday, but yet we're still scheduled to play Sunday at 1:00. If I'm on that team, I'm doing the same thing. I'm trying to figure out, how we gonna be ready to play? How we gonna be ready to play against an undefeated Pittsburgh team? Yeah. And no one's gonna give us the excuse of, well, y'all didn't get a chance to practice. We talked about that in here. How I said, man, I feel like it's a competitive disadvantage of not being able to practice. But it was still a lot of people that were just kind of like, it doesn't matter, go out there and show up. So I'm not against them doing that. And then from the NFL standpoint, in terms of them talking about handing out harsher punishment to the Titans for that, to me, I feel like the NFL is being hypocritical anyways, because when we fast forwarded a week later, the Patriots and Chiefs, they knew that the Patriots had Cam Newton test positive. We understood that, but then they took 2 separate planes because they had one plane designated for players that were potentially contaminated, potentially had COVID. One of those players, Stephon Gilmore, on that second plane. But yet you still have him go out there and play in the game, knowing that it's a possibility that he could have tested positive a day later, which he ended up doing anyways. To me, if you're going to hand out these harsh fines and all this punishment for the Titans for getting together to practice when it didn't have anything to do with anyone else, they're doing their own thing because they can't get in the facility. But yet you knew ahead of time going into this game that this dude potentially had COVID. Potentially the players that were on that plane had COVID. And you allow them to fly separate planes. If it's bad enough that you got to take separate planes, that's telling you something right there. And then from there, you allow them to play in the game, and you see post-game, beautiful picture, him hugging Patrick Mahomes. Beautiful. Oh, no helmet on. Just give me some love. Like, to me, I have more of an issue with that if the NFL does take the route that they're talking about taking in terms of some of these harsher punishments or unprecedented punishments. I feel like the NFL, they need to look in the mirror in that regard, because yeah, both scenarios were bad, but you can't handle one scenario this way, but then because this one is better for ratings, we're gonna let that one slide. Like, nah.
Yeah, dude, like I said, it's just, I don't know. I don't have like that crazy of an opinion. Like this kind of stuff's going to happen. I know if I was the Steelers and they're trying to take draft picks away and having us forfeit, I'd be pissed off. Yeah. So like, I'm not trying to act like, oh, the Titans should be disciplined so harshly for this and that. Like, I don't know, man. It's a weird thing. People are getting it. They're not really sick. Like, I don't know, the asymptomatic thing. It's just, I don't know, dude. I don't have that crazy an opinion. I just think the NFL is going to try to do everything they can to keep things moving forward. And if they think these guidelines are it, then so be it. I don't know if it's going to be it. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, they just not revising, but they like made little alterations to the policies that were already in place. They did that. I think was this would have been Monday. They put out new information to the teams, talk to the GMs, head coaches again to kind of reiterate certain things and stuff like that. But we did see a little bit of a first real outbreak scenario with the NFL. I mean, with the Raiders, they had multiple players test positive for COVID. They actually had multiple players get fined as well because of them going to an event where they were documented, where there's pictures, cameras, but they didn't have any type of mask on and things like that. So that's why a lot of those guys got fined. Derek Carr was one of them actually out there. Then we talked about the Patriots with Stephon Gilmore. You already know with Cam Newton, who they said should be back this week if he continues to test negative. He should be able to come back. Yeah, it's crazy right now. And then with the Titans, like I said, they're still having positive tests right now also.
I did see that.
Yeah.
I don't know. Like I said, dude, it's just how it is with everyone's got to have this, this harsh take. Titans got to pay, or like, I don't know. I don't feel that way. I guess
my thing is this though. I kind of feel though, if you're the Titans and they were to make you forfeit, in the end, it could potentially benefit you if we're talking playoff seedings when we talk about wins and losses, because the similar way of how a tie can help you more than a loss at times, that forfeit, depending on how they word it, depending on how they rank it on your schedule or on your overall record, like that could have an effect. Because I saw some people talking about just forfeit to make it a straight loss, Bills win or Steelers win and things like that. I've also seen where they would just leave it as the Titans didn't play that game.
So it's not an AFC loss.
Right, it's not an AFC loss. Right, in that scenario. So,
where you still have, going into any game, you got a 60-40 chance of winning or losing, or 40-60, 50-50, whatever it is, as opposed to, like, you get the loss. And it's against the AFC for sure, as opposed to loss, no AFC. Right. That's interesting. I didn't even think of that at all.
So that's another thing. And then they were talking about potentially if certain teams just had to not play a game, right? And if the team, then basically what they're saying was the team that tested positive, right, that had the outbreak, they just don't play that game at all. So they would play 14 games this year. The team that was supposed to play against them that was healthy gets the win. So you got some teams playing 16 games, some teams playing 14, 15, 13 games. To me, I just feel like that's going to get really messy when it comes down to playoff seeding and spots like that. And yeah, I feel like people would go crazy if a team that set out early ends up getting in because just wins and losses, they don't have that extra loss on their record because they had to sit out that game. Like
that'd be funny. Right? I'm not gonna lie, that'd be funny.
It would be funny. It would, as long as you were on the good side of it. If you were the team that didn't get in because that team had one less loss because they didn't play in the game because of COVID.
Well, no, I think you would lose. No, honestly, because what's the general sentiment right now? Probably around the NFL, a lot of teams or fans are saying Titans should pay for this. Correct? Would you say?
I feel like it's a mix. Honestly, I feel like you got the super. Man, they need to have a loss. They need to have forfeit multiple games, and they need to be fined. Vrabel needs to be fired. Like it's
because that would be funny. The irony of that would be hilarious. Yeah. That's like, all right, you get that because you wanted that so bad, and this is what you get. Like your team is bounced out of the playoffs because you wanted the Titans to win or have that loss so bad. Right. Now you get out of the play. That would be hilarious to me.
It would.
Because I don't know what the general sentiment is. I don't know if it's just Steeler fans that are thinking it or if it's around the league.
Well, no, I feel like the Steeler sentiment when they started talking about the Bills potentially getting a victory via forfeit, Steeler fans started getting.
That is in talks.
That is in talks because the policy in terms of the violations that were in place and stuff like that. The Titans beforehand didn't necessarily violate all of that then. But once the policies were in place going into this game against the Bills, when they held those practices together, they're saying that from then on, starts to violate those days, and that's why it could be a potential.
That happened on Steelers week or Bills week?
It happened going into the Bills week.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's what they're saying in turn. Well, this would have been the 30th, so I think that was either Wednesday or Thursday of last week. But whenever it was, the policies, after they started gathering information, the NFL changed everything in terms of...
They already postponed the game.
Correct, yeah. But then from there, that's when they started saying, well, we're going to do this, this, and this if you don't do this, this, and this. And the Titans, after the fact, had something else. So that's kind of what the whole scenario is. So that's why they were saying with the Bills game, the Bills could legit get a forfeit victory this week, but the Steelers game still has to be rescheduled or still going to be played. I think it's week 7, we said last week or whatever. So saw a good amount of Steelers fans upset about that, feeling that they should get a win as well.
And I get the frustration because it's like, oh man, if that happens with the Bills, why not with us? You know what I mean? We both had to not play because of the Titans situation. But I think the thing is this though, if we say today we're implementing a rule, okay, and the rule is, if and I get this side 100% too. That's what I'm saying.
Right, you can't like retroactively punish a guy for something that wasn't a rule a week ago. The rule just became a rule today. So how are we gonna punish you for that for 2 weeks ago when we just came up with this today? That's my biggest thing, and that's why I don't think the Steelers game should be affected in terms of a forfeit. I think you still have to play that because that was already decided before any new punishments were created and things along that nature. You can't create it today and then go back. If that's the case, man, it would be a lot of nonsense going on just around the world. If we could, today we're going to create a policy, but I can go back in time and get you for that now. That's my whole thought process with it, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, dude, it's what I don't know. I just don't really have that mindset of like, this is happening with the Bills, like, and I'm going to stew over this. Like we really need that. We got screwed. It's like, let's just move on. Kind of like
we're going 16-0 anyways. It don't matter.
Yeah, let's just move on, man. Like let's focus on ourselves. And we got the Eagles this week. Yeah, like this is, I don't know. I just don't think it does any good for, I don't know, probably more or less the team and their mentality because they're the ones actually playing the games. But even us fans, man, let's just vibe, man. Positive vibes. Let's keep going. NFL, we're still rolling. Let's keep it going.
Positive vibes, man. You heard it right here, baby. Talk to him, baby. Talk to him.
Yeah.